from the previous year. Now, to help break this all down, Hayley Tsukayama, she is a tech reporter for the Washington Post blog, The Switch. Welcome to Biz Asia America, and I joke that these stories make a lot of us feel a little old because I remember playing video games, and it's a whole different world now in terms of the video game console market. In your view, the trends that we're seeing, it's always been faster, it's always been more graphics, it's always been all these things. Is that still the same?
It's certainly something that we're seeing a lot. They just launched these new consoles, and so they're touting sort of the faster graphics and the faster
How can it get
power.
any faster? Because I already have a headache just watching the samples that they show me. It's already at light speed, isn't it?
Well, certainly they're looking more now at photorealism and making things, just smoother textures, making things a little more appealing to look at. And as they mentioned in that report, they're looking at different types of formats. So playing with people online, now that you don't have that lag, now that the machines are able to keep up with that.
All right, surprises. We talked a little bit about Sony, Microsoft, and there's other big players as well, but I know we focus a lot of attention on those two. Do you expect any more surprises?
Well, I think this E3 is all about the games, right? They already showed the consoles last year, so they have a lot of projects kind of hiding that they're waiting to pull out and impress us with. And so I think a lot of people are looking for sequels to big franchises, and then also just new things.
Now, I know this is the case in the U.S., and I don't know about globally, maybe you can help us, is that there are not quite the robust growth that we used to see in the gaming industry. And you can blame cell phones, you can blame the internet, you can blame a lot of things. And I guess my question to you is, why do you think that market has shrunk, and how much will it shrink by, in your opinion, ultimately?
Well, I think we certainly are seeing with the consoles, because more people are gaming than ever, but they're gaming on, as you say, on their tablets and on their smartphones. And so, there is some question about whether the idea of a console as a separate device is going to go away if these companies are going to become sort of networks for gaming as opposed to ones that produce hardware.
You know this because you cover this space. In China, a lot of people play video games on the PC, not so much on these gaming machines by Microsoft and Sony. I wonder if that, in your opinion, would change in the future?
China's a really interesting market because, of course, it only opened up to these games or to these companies in terms of consoles last year. And so, they're really looking at trying to hit that market that's never been tapped before.
And they're expensive.
Yes.
These aren't these machines are like half of someone's salary. These are this is not when we used to play. This is very expensive adult prices.
So I think what we're going to see is kind of cheaper versions of consoles to try and really get at that.
So Sony and Microsoft actually might have a different price in China. You're thinking
and
that's a
Nintendo
real
as
possibility.
well has announced that they're going to release a lower price console.
Finally, one of the myths out there is, I don't know if your parents ever said this, but if you played too many video games, it would be bad for your eyes. Any truth to that?
Well, not that I've found, but certainly being too close to a screen for too long can't be good for you.
All right, and one of the things that we also mentioned is virtual reality. I don't know if it's still called a video game, but it's a game of some sort because you're put in this real world type of situation where you can touch things. Is that something that's, are we going to see that in people's living room?
So it's always been sort of a sci-fi dream, right?
And it's cool.
Yeah, and so now we're seeing Sony has released, or announced at least, a headset, and Oculus, which was actually pending acquisition by Facebook, they have something called the Rift. And so it's not going to be, the Star Trek holodeck kind of experience, but it's definitely closer to being in the living room than we've ever seen before.
Okay, now of the three big ones, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, it's probably not fair we focus on those three because there's a lot of other smaller startups and post-startup companies around the world doing that. Which company should we keep an eye on? Is there somebody up and coming that you really like that you keep an eye on?
Of those three?
No, of the smaller ones.
Oh, the smaller ones.
Not of the big three.
I think there are a lot of companies doing interesting gaming accessories. So there's something called the OmniVirtuix that's like a treadmill that you attach to your game console. That's pretty fun. You walk around on that treadmill and you walk around in the game. That's pretty cool.
So you're actually working out. So you're doing something healthy.
That's right.
There has been some criticism, and I want to bring this up because the shootings. We've seen them in the United States, and every time we see shootings, there's a lot of criticism that these games encourage kids for violence. The industry itself, is it a problem for them? Have they overcome that?
I think it's...
Or do they ever overcome it?
Well, I think it's hard for them to overcome it. Shooting games are very popular, and so I think what they've said is it's like a violent movie, it's like a violent television show. It's the same sort of exposure to violence, and you may just get people Yeah.
It's a difficult topic. Hayley Tsukayama, thank you very much. Washington Post. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.